Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 edition of the Africa Creative Tech webinar series dedicated to the dynamic African creative economy ecosystem and its enablers, where we intend to blend creativity, technology, and venture capital. I am Oluneye Oluwole, the founder and the chief storyteller at Story Chest Inc. Canada, and my co-host is Dennis Belkovich. As a storyteller, a spoken word poet, an author, an ecosystem builder, I am particularly excited at the start of this year's webinar series as we journey on this amazing, journey. We continue on this journey and innovative vision. Let's kickstart today's series, and I want to hand you over to Dennis. Dennis, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Ole. As you said, I'm Dennis Belkovich, the co-founder and general partner at Fuel Arts. So these webinar series are made possible through through the collaborative partnership between our companies, Fuel Arts and Story Chest. Together, we announced the Africa Creative Tech Initiative, committed to refining education approaches, integrating innovative business models, and exploring a wealth of initiatives designed to foster growth and innovation in African creative tech. And starting the last quarter of 2024, we showcased Africa through the lens of its entrepreneurs and investors. And today we're excited to continue with the Africa Creative Tech series. Over to you, Olu.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. This edition, I'm particularly excited. We'll be spotlighting Rwanda's creative tech revolution, and we'll be delving into innovation, the strategic policies, the digital transformation that are shaping Rwanda's creative economy and setting a model for Africa's future. We will explore Rwanda's unique approach to ecosystem building, investment, cultural preservation, highlighting its impact on entrepreneurship, market access, and global scalability for African creatives. Our conversation with our guest will examine strategies to bridge the gender gap in creative tech, scale African enterprises globally, and leverage artificial intelligence and blockchain to preserve cultural heritage. Furthermore, we will be discussing how these advancements position African innovators for long-term success, attract investment, and foster a thriving and inclusive creative economy. I do believe, Dennis, you can take it from here.
Thank you. Also, today we're delighted to welcome Raoul Rugamba, a Rwandan entrepreneur, investor, and the founder of Africa in Colors, an initiative promoting Africa's creative industries globally. Hello, Raoul.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, Raoul.
Let us give a quick scope of your activities so far, and then we'll proceed to our questions. So, with over a decade in cultural and digital creative industries, Raoul was the first who established Hoba Agency before launching Africa in Colors in 2020 to structure and unite Africa's CCI ecosystem. CCI refers to creative and cultural industries. So since 2022, you have been working with the African Union on a continental arts education policy. And also we know that as a research consultant, you led Rwanda's MasterCard Foundation CCI research and served as Rwanda's CCI expert for the International Finance Corporation back in 2024. Well, that was nearly yesterday. So, and now you continue to connect African creators with global markets, shaping the future of the continent's creative industries. Greetings and congratulations, and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Thank you so much, Alune, for having me at this great on this great platform.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're going to go straight into. Yes, let's go. We're super fired up, and I'm going to start it off with asking the very first question, Raul. And I'm going to
Yeah.
start with Rwanda's creative tech ecosystem as a model for Africa. Rwanda has positioned itself as a hub for innovation and entrepreneurship, particularly in the creative and tech industries. Can you walk us through those strategies, the policies that propel this growth, and how can Rwanda's success be replicated on the continent? Thank you for that.
So it's a very complex question. Let me try to break it down. So there is the creative scene itself is a new thing in Rwanda. It's not yet where it's supposed to be. Now, on the other side, the tech scene is way advanced, and the tech scene is way advanced because of how Rwanda positioned ICT as a priority sector and put it in a lot of efforts and support in making it a tech hub and improve or bring that tech scene where it's supposed to be or where it is today, which is very remarkable and an example on the continent. And then the creative scene has always been a bit shaky and not well advanced. But for the past, let me say, few years, 3, 4, we have seen an important growth. And even before, slightly before COVID happened, we started seeing an important growth in the tourism industry. And that growth in the tourism industry has created or improved or supported the creative scene to grow. And today, because of a lot of infrastructures that happened around the tourism industry, people coming in from different parts of the different corners of the continent with a certain knowledge about arts, culture, etc., they have really brought in some value to the creative scene of Rwanda. So now we are on the rise and the growth of that industry. Now, what is happening now, which is a bit new, is that intersection between the arts and the tech scene. So I think in the next few years, that will be a really another important example we can show or we can share, experience we can share with other African countries. But that intersection is really new in Rwanda.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Raul.
before I know, sorry, Dennis, I just wanted Raul to touch on some of the strategies. You mentioned the first industry and focus being the tech, industry, the tech sector. Were there any strategies or policies that favored the rise and the development of that of that sector, for it to be a thriving sector for other African countries to learn from and to kind of take as takeaways, by the government or by other stakeholders?
Okay, so the short answer, because it can be a long story, but the short answer is Rwanda went through a genocide against the Tutsi in 1994, right? And that's about 30 years ago. And part of the rebirth of the country, we didn't have a lot of solutions because Rwanda is not a rich country in terms of resources, natural resources. So most of the things that will grow the local economy had to be through services. And that's how tourism was really key to be positioned at the heart of the growth of the country, because if if that can create an economy, then it's something Rwanda needed because it doesn't have resources. Then on the second part, when you speak about services in as a contributor to the local economy, ICT becomes a key element in allowing that to happen. So what the government did was putting a lot of efforts and support from the right policies to the right infrastructures to the investment that goes with it, etc., to really position Rwanda as an ICT hub to allow all these services to happen, which at the end of the day creates an economy for the country. And actually today it's paying off because services are one of the top contributors in the economy of the country. Tourism is the second one. So it's paying off today, and everything now is coming to really sit on that ICT, from policies, established policies, infrastructures, etc. So Rwanda has almost over 90% of the territory covered by the fiber optic. 70% has 4G across the country. So all those kind of things are bringing a certain leverage to whatever we are doing in other sectors.
Thank you, Raul.
Yeah, thank you.
Your answer
Dennis. Thank you so much.
Your answer a bit corresponds, and Olu's question a bit corresponds with what I was about to ask you, to elaborate more on the financial and investment side of Rwanda's economy, especially in creative tech. But I'm pretty sure that with your experience, you will find what to reply in addition that you have already done. So, of course, building a thriving creative economy is impossible without financing. And of course, based on your experience with Africa in Colors, your company, what structural reforms, infrastructure besides the optical cable and other governmental initiatives that you've mentioned? So what else is needed to foster sustainable growth in Africa tech and creative industries to support long-term industry success?
So let me start with one key thing, which is skills. So it's really important we make sure that us in the space and younger people have certain skills and understanding when it comes to these industries, from being practitioners to running businesses in this space. That's the primary thing. The second thing is access to information and markets, where actually things like technology comes in, where it's now easier to access information and access market. But in many parts of the continent, it's still really complicated to access internet, have smartphones or electronic devices to allow that to happen. And then when it coming to our space now, I think it's still an industry looked as a hobby thing. It's not yet a professional thing the way they look at it. Even governments are still looking at it as entertainment, and resources that goes toward that or support that goes toward that are still really, really minimum. And it becomes really challenging for us to do business in this space on the continent. Now, giving you a quick background story is when I started Whole Agency, I used to work for the government of Rwanda at the National University of Rwanda. And looking at how the music was a big deal in Rwanda back then, which actually ties to our culture, because celebration is a big thing in our culture, and music is at the core center of that celebration, from families to events, etc. So as there was an opportunity to do business, right? But once you are in, you find yourself that it's really complicated to produce an event. It's really complicated to produce an international artist on the continent, or in Rwanda in that case, equipment, etc., etc. So we had to play around and struggle, and we're still struggling actually, and African Colors came in to say, listen, we're actually doing it the wrong way. I think the issue is the ecosystem. So we can tackle one thing, one issue, one challenge before we tackle the other one. So we have to think of an entire ecosystem for the creative industry ecosystem to happen. And that's how African Colors was born. So we really focusing on the education component, providing skills to people, to thinking of how people collaborate and access market and opportunities, to access to funding, because everything else we'll be doing is going to be a waste if people at the end of the day can access some sort of funding mechanism or solutions to allow them to put into actions what they are doing or what they are dreaming of. So the sustainability really comes in by looking at the entire ecosystem, from skills to how people access markets, to the tools they have to use, to financing solutions that speaks to them. Because most of the time you find financial institutions who are willing to give money, or who say they have money, and institution like World Bank, IFC, etc. Or we have money, we can put money in the creative industries. But when you go deeper into the discussion, that funding doesn't speak to us. It doesn't speak to the continent, because they ask you things like collaterals, you have to make money every month, etc., etc. And when you are in the creation process, it can be in 1 month. You need a lot of time. So that funding doesn't speak. So that's part of what we are dreaming about. What we are really trying to put into action is, how do we look at what is there? How do we use technology to really create a new innovative way to allow these people in the creative space to have access to funding, and the funding that speaks to how their business works. So, let me stop there. I spoke too much.
No, no, you haven't, because you have really touched on something very important. The access to funding, and the support that is needed for the creative industries, cultural and creative industries. And if we're looking at some of these challenges through this lens, I wonder how women will be faring, because they're more underrepresented. And it brings me to my favorite question: the role of women in Rwanda's creative tech boom. Women, I would say globally, remain underrepresented in both the creative and the tech sectors. I want to know, are there policies? You mentioned funding from the World Bank, from other institutions. Are there policies, funding models, and capacity initiatives that can be implemented? Because when we're talking about this marginalization, this underrepresentation, and in the small numbers, women then even fall below the numbers. So are there policies, are there capacity building initiatives that can be implemented to bridge the gender gap and create more opportunities for women-led startups in Rwanda and beyond? Because you mentioned music in the creative industry concerning Rwanda, and we see women as players. How can we make them visible, and what are those policies that you think can create more opportunities for them?
Well, that's Rwanda is the base example you can give when it comes to empowering young girls, women, and giving a platform to women, girls. Sometimes we joke and say, "I wish I was a girl," because Rwanda has managed to really provide and create an environment which is safe to girls and women. Actually, Rwanda is now, I think, the first or second in the world with the highest women representation in government, and everything goes from there. From since when the government has put that as a priority, a lot of things followed. From opportunities, everything considers that, everything has that in the when running a program, when establishing a company, etc. All those things are really put it in consideration. And Rwanda promotes really gender equality, women empowerment. You every year you see an important growth in girls going to school, girls accessing job opportunities, etc. So you see that willingness and practical actions that follows as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
so I do want to touch on the fact that it's a government intentionality to make women representation, a top priority, accessing, across board. I just want to have it as a takeaway, because we're talking about how do we model this across the continent in Africa, where you're having government prioritize women in leadership, in business, in education, and across board, so to speak. So that's one great takeaway that I am, having for Rwanda, for replication across the continent. Thank you. Back to you, Dennis.
Yes, thank you, Olu. Thank you, Raul. Let's shift from local to global. Let's speak about scaling African creative enterprises. In your opinion, based on your experience, how can digital platforms or cross-border collaborations, strategic investments help position African creative brands on the global stage? And what key factors should creatives consider enhancing investor confidence, securing funding, and scaling their businesses globally?
So I think it's sometimes a chicken egg game, because you can't access global markets if the production and the quality doesn't match the global standards. That's one. And then on the other side, when it comes to distributing the goods and services through technology on the global market, you will need that distribution channel and logistic solutions. Is still very expensive on the continent to move things, to send things from point A to point B. It's still really complicated. And on the other side of the continent, it's still really complicated to enter those markets. You still have a lot of barriers from products that are made from this side of the world to enter those markets. So I think it has to be done in parallel, from providing financial support and environment on the continent to people in the creative space to produce quality products and quality services, and then at the same time work on the distribution channel, where on the other side you find favorable policies and incentives for products from this side, and then at the same time have local entrepreneurs, the private sector from those countries, really interested in bringing African products to their market. So and then at the same time work on the logistics, because it's super complicated to send goods on the other side. Mainly, maybe you will say services, it's much easier when you leverage on technology. For example, now Google, YouTube, Microsoft, etc., are hiring engineers from the continent. They don't have to leave the continent anymore. Some of them, they work from here. So when it comes to services, we are seeing an important growth there, and interest from those big markets interested in hiring local manpower or talents.
Thank you, Ra. We're still on the global scene, and I want to look at the digital age. It's sweeping across, the world, and I want to contextualize it in reimagining cultural heritage in the digital age. What ethical, because I'm particularly interested as a creative, and like you are, and we're seeing the influx of the digital age taking over, and what ethical and economic frameworks, as well as emerging technologies like the artificial intelligence, blockchain, should guide the digital transformation of traditional African art, traditional African music, poetry, storytelling, to ensure the authenticity of these content, the fair compensation, and sustainable impact.
You mean how it should be done, or what are the challenges? Okay.
I would say, how should it be done, and probably what are the challenges? It's kind of be two in one.
So listen, I think it's that type of innovation is now on the continent. You find a lot of countries working on those solutions. Nigeria is really advanced in the north of Africa. It's really advanced. Kenya is doing amazing. South Africa is doing amazing as well. So you find those kind of and West Africa. So you find those innovations happening on the continent. Now, in terms of how complex or expensive they are, that's where the first challenge comes in, because it's really, if you talk about the metaverse, right, you will definitely need a heavy infrastructure to put that in place. And if a country that is already struggling with having a smartphone, the metaverse won't help, right? And when it comes to heavy things like developing games on 3D platforms like Unity, etc., people are already struggling with even electronic devices that can handle small things. Imagine now those big things that need computers that are more heavy. And if you go on the next level, when it comes to data centers, it becomes even more complicated, because we don't have those infrastructures on the continent. So sometimes you have to leverage on crowd infrastructures, which becomes a bit expensive, not only, but also complicated to access, because internet is still an issue in many countries across the continent. Now, on the other side, the development of those tools is still a sort of luxury, if I can put it that way, because you need to have talents that are skilled enough to develop those kind of solutions. And it's not only about developing those solutions, it's also about looking at the security of them. So you don't want to end up having an issue when everything that is developed is distributed for free, or any money that is going through those solutions disappears. So you have to consider that factor as well. So in a few, you still have those kind of challenges. The innovations are there, but how do we to make them sustainable? Again, countries have to come in and make it a proper environment, or create an environment that are suitable to develop that in a mass. Again, once those countries, those governments are willing to do that, then the private sector will see more interest, or will feel more confident to invest in that space and do more. So yeah.
Thank you, Raul. I'm back. I mean, sometimes we're talking about using high technologies in African countries, but sometimes such technologies are such a simple and, I mean, technology that we use every day, like internet, can drop down even in the high developed cities and world established hubs like Miami. That's why, yeah, I'm back. My internet is restored. So the conclusion from this internet drop down is that the technology doesn't depend on the level of the area, of the level of the development of the area. So we have we just had an example of that. By the way, Miami is thought to be the AI epicenter of the United States, as the mayor of Miami believes for the next 10 years. So let's speak about AI development in Rwanda. I've heard that there are some interesting movements with AI and as the future of Africa creative industry. So in your opinion, what strategic policies and investment models needed to establish Africa and Rwanda in particular as a leader in AI-powered creative industries that ensure access, responsible AI development, and global competitiveness?
So it's an interesting subject now, and actually Rwanda is hosting the AI summit in few days. So it's still I'm trying to phrase it and see how to explain it properly. So you have a lot of initiatives happening in Rwanda as well by local companies trying to place AI into their businesses, their startup, their tech solutions. On the other side, you also find most of them are working on, an important number of them are working or using what is already developed, and just try to place them within their companies or their solutions. Very few, maybe one or two I have heard are working on the AI thing, but that's of course because it's super expensive to develop your own AI. But on the other side, you also find the government really trying to make it a favorable, creating a favorable environment for people, investors, talents, tech gurus, innovators to find a room for them to develop those solutions or use AI or develop AI solutions. And actually one of them is the recent policy that the government put in place for AI. And on the other side, we still, all of us, trying to figure out how to protect some of these things AI can destroy if not well used. So the government is also trying to figure out how to do it, although it's putting in place a policy that can support the artificial intelligence environment in Rwanda. but also on the other side, trying to protect consumers or the local market against what AI can if not well used, destroy. So but we don't have a lot of investment going toward that for now.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you,
Before I
Raul.
ask my next question, thank you so much. Before I ask my next question, I want to piggyback on your thoughts on the challenges. Do you see any challenges in ensuring the authenticity of the traditional African art, music, and poetry and storytelling with the use of AI, technologies like AI? Do you see any challenges? I've seen a couple of content coming out from the continent, and they're very, it's a blend of the traditional African stories or the traditional African poetry with artificial intelligence. But do you think there could be challenges down the line if care is not taken? And what are those challenges from your point of view? Before I go to my next questions, because I want us to really look at that before moving to the next question.
Frankly speaking, I don't see any other challenge apart from the infrastructure, which is very complicated to put in place, and the piracy that can come with it. But on the other side, if well used, or if local creatives are willing to collaborate, if I can put it that way, it can play on their advantage in terms of more creativity, more creations, and more access on the market. So I think it's at the same time a challenge, but not a challenge for me. But mainly the protection is what I'm concerned about a bit. But you see a lot of, I've seen a lot of creative companies working on that subject, and they're doing really amazing things leveraging AI.
Okay, thank you. Because you touched on my next, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I wanted to say something, and then how to monetize those stuff. So it's still a kind of a hobby when you talk to this AI thing in the creative space. It's still somehow playing around, being a hobby than making sure it can monetize.
Yeah. You touched on two things that would circle around my next question, which is collaboration as well as the monetization or the intellectual property. How do we, secure that, but I'm going to go straight into my next question, which is three-pronged, and it will be an interesting one for ecosystem builders. It hovers around public-private partnerships in the creative industry. You mentioned collaboration. How can governments and the private sector collaborate to drive the growth of cultural and creative industries? That's one. What successful examples of the PPP partnerships exist in Rwanda, say, for instance, and what lessons can be applied to Rwanda's ecosystem? So it's a three-pronged question. Do you want me to take it again? How can governments and private sector collaborate to drive the growth of cultural and creative industries? And what successful examples do you want to share? And what lessons can be applied to Rwanda's ecosystem?
So I think from my experience and what I always tell the public sector this side and other places as well where we go through across Africa is it's just a matter of trying to be innovative. In many African countries, governments on the continent, they are still in a space, in an environment where these things are too risky, and these things are not things that can be a priority in a country. So the partnerships that can work have to start, first of all, from governments wanting to be innovative. And by being innovative, it means being flexible. By being flexible, it means allowing creativity flow in a country. So how do you create that environment? So that should be what governments, African governments, should work on, creating environments that allows creativity to flow. That's one. And then second is, once that environment is established, the private sector creatives are always there. They always figure out how to come in. They're even working in this environment, right? So when you create more environments, they will definitely now come in and do more from what they were doing, from creation to even investing. We even now ourselves, we put everything we have because we believe in this thing. We have a passion of these things, and we see that it has a potential. But working in an environment that can allow you to do more will allow these creatives to do more. Now, that's where tech comes in, because if you create these tech solutions and the environment, or you struggle with the policies around, or regulations, it will be complicated to allow that flow of creativity within countries. So the public-private partnership that can work has to be around policy, regulations, and infrastructures. Infrastructures, from physical infrastructures to digital infrastructures, and that will allow another important player coming in, the financial institutions, or people with money. So I think that's the only thing I think can work, is really coming in as a government and be willing to be innovative. And then from there, work with the creatives, local private sector, to figure out the policies that can work, the incentives that can work, regulations that doesn't block creativity. And then from there, money will flow in for sure.
Yeah, and is there an example like you can reference in Rwanda, or something that you have gone through, or your colleagues, or there's an example of a PPP, a partnership in Rwanda that sets an example for other, ecosystems?
Let me maybe give an example of what we are doing. That would be easier, maybe. So we considering this partnership from the bottom, from cities, right? If we manage to figure out how cities can work with local creatives, it can be easier to really expand or scale it on a national level. And then from the national level, from the regional level, across the continent. So what we are doing is, or what we thought about, is developing a solution where, through our partnership with local authorities, we bring on the table public infrastructures. And then within the public infrastructures, as a private sector, we just plug in those public spaces, public infrastructures. From there, the money is generated. And once you have created the money from those spaces, the private sector benefits, those are creatives, and the government authorities, or public authorities, public spaces, public infrastructures benefit as well, because we pay taxes, etc., etc. The money goes to the public in a way or another. And then at the same time, you creating track records of those activities from for financial institutions, or for investors to have a track record for those people, those creatives, and then at the same time for the government to see and inform their decisions at the end of the day, because everything we are doing in most countries across the continent are based on emotions, if I can put that way. We don't have data, we don't have tangible data, right? So that partnership between the private sector and the public sector allows us also to have or create real-time data, or a sort of data set decision can base on for their decisions. So I think that's a quick example I can give of what is happening in Rwanda and what we think can work in terms of public-private partnerships.
Thank you. Over to you, Dennis.
Yes, thank you, Raul. Thank you, Olu. Raul, you've touched the question of, I mean, you've mentioned the term creative cities, and I know that also thanks to you and your activity, Kigali is considered to be a creative city around Rwanda. So let's shift the angle to creative cities and innovation hubs as the future of African urban development. With Rwanda's government strategically positioning Kigali as a leading creative and tech hub, what key lessons can other African cities learn from its approach?
I think what I always say, and to make it short in terms of answer, being flexible. I think if there is one thing the country managed to do is really to say it's like a startup, basically, right? So when you're a startup, you think it's easy. You can do things. You can be ambitious, right? And put environment that can allow you to grow, scale, etc. I think what Rwanda managed to do is position itself as a place where things can happen. You just have an idea, so come over and try it out. If it doesn't work, then we'll figure it out. And if it does, we can help you scale it. So we have seen things where some of the fintech companies that came in here or were here, when they came in and found that it was really complicated to run a fintech company, so they went to the government. The government started working on policies, and then from policies, we have now new environments. We have a sandbox by the central bank, etc., etc. So the country managed to be really flexible, and on the side of the business, where whatever you go to tell them with tangible things, with high potential, they are willing to adapt their regulations and policies to suit that you are willing to do and create more impact within the country. So I think that's one thing which is very key, that other African countries can really learn from. But again, that thing costs a lot, but it also requires a lot to happen. So you can't do that if the security is not there, the corruption is still very high, because startups are struggling with small money. So when on top of everything they're struggling with, you are also taking that money from them, it will be really complicated. So I think beyond what the country is doing in terms of being flexible as a government, there is also that other environment and facts that the country is known for, which allows that part of being flexible and being an environment where people can create, can innovate from.
Thank you, Raul.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know
we still have several
you.
questions that we've prepared, and we're interested in your replies. Also, we know that you are currently working on a large-scale project, and we also would love you to present it. So let's consider 10 minutes and 2 questions plus your presentation. Sorry, Ola, for interrupting you. I just want us to be respectful towards the the time and
The
our
time.
attendees.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
All right. So, yeah, go ahead, please.
so
Um,
do you want me to go?
Yeah, I thought, Raul, I thought you've already replied to the question and stopped. Sorry for interrupting you.
No. Okay, go ahead. Hello. Sorry.
Okay, so I'm just going to touch on a favorite topic of mine, which you mentioned a while back, and capacity building. And this topic talks about mentorship and skills development as a long-term investment. So I want you quickly to for you to touch on what innovative education and capacity building models are most effective in bridging that talent gap that you also talked about, and how can they be designed to equip creatives and tech entrepreneurs with a business acumen. We talked about data as an issue on the continent, not having enough data, and how can they be designed to equip creatives and tech entrepreneurs with a business acumen, financial literacy, and investor readiness needed to scale, their ventures sustainably. If you can touch on that, that would be my final question from me.
So I think from our experience, I think it has to be short-term programs that allows these people or these young people to go through a sort of a journey, right? So from being into a theoretical environment where they learn all these things they need to be to have skills to go on the market, to going through a certain sort of internship that can allow and equip them with now practical skills on the ground, and then from there go into the market. So I think in a nutshell, that's the answer to your question. So short-term programs that takes them from theoretical things to internships and then to the market, and from 360 things from skills. If it's an example, if they're into the gaming space, so developing games, and then another segment of distribution of the games, and then monetization, and then go into a company that is doing that. And then after that, they can choose to work for people, or they can choose to be entrepreneurs and go create their own companies.
So to speak, an incubator program, kind of, then move to accelerator program.
Yeah, they can start from any TVET school, any training center, and then go into an incubation, and then go into a company, and then go choose to stay into being employees, or go for creating a startup company.
Thank you. Dennis?
Thank you both, Raul and Olu. First of all, Olu, for that question, because as soon as Fuel Arts has been organized as an accelerator initially, so I feel patience and passion, better say, towards questions that touch acceleration, incubation items. So our final question, and then could you please, in attachment to this question, like present the project you're currently working on. So our final question is about investing. Investing, it's all about the money nowadays and every time. So investing in Africa's creative tech future as the next big opportunity. So for investors looking to enter Africa's creative and digital economy, based on your experience with African colors and other expertise of yours, where do the biggest opportunities lie? In other words, what sectors like gaming, digital arts, film, music, creative advertising, or AI-driven content hold the most potential for high impact and scalable investments?
Well, it depends on the market. Every market has its own advantages. If you look at Rwanda, music is high, fashion is growing. If you go next door, Kenya, hair and beauty is a big thing. Craft is a big thing. And then if you go a bit in the north, Ethiopia is when it comes to textile, to fashion, etc. So it's growing. And then Nigeria, it's all about movie content. It's a big thing there. So I think every country, every market is a bit different. But all in all, I think when it comes to microcredits, if we manage to crack that, I think it's a huge opportunity for everyone, and that's a cross cutting solution in Africa. That's one. Second is the distribution component. For digital, on the digital side, figuring out the distribution of digital things plus monetization, and on physical goods, the logistic part is still a huge challenge to move and send things from point A to point B, even before it goes outside the continent. Actually, sometimes going outside the continent is easier than sending across the continent. So, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. So please showcase. We're all excited to know about large-scale projects that you're working on, and that should be released this summer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So on our side, when I created the first company, which was dealing with event management and production and artist booking, we realized that, yes, we can be ambitious, we can do whatever we want, we can be passionate about these things and do whatever we want, get into debt, spend whatever we have. But at the end of the day, generating revenues in this space is really complicated. And sometimes what you need is just a boost of a hand in your company when it comes to your next production, your next fueling your next idea. Now, so our main focus this year is going to be around creating environments and solutions to allow creatives have access to funding, and considering their markets, their needs, how they operate, and then give them a boost, a financial boost they need. But for that to happen, you need to put a lot of things in place, plus also creating a strong network of people who are willing to put money on the table together. So we are doing a forum. We're bringing a forum in Rwanda in August 28th, 31st. And the idea is to bring all the people with money who are not investing in the space, or with money already investing in the space, or who are willing to put money in the space if they feel comfortable. So the forum will be a marketplace. And the idea of the forum, again, is really to make sure that we have tangible things. We have startups which are ready for investment. And then on the other side, investors who are willing to put money on the table, and they just need to be safe. And then on the third party to be the government, to make sure or ensure that government is at the same time a student of how these things works. And then on the other side, also a grandparent that allows things to happen. So the forum is really going to play that role and make sure that post forum we have money moving around. It can be little, it can be a lot, but we have to have that funding flowing in the space. So we'll start with Rwanda and then later on go to other markets as well.
Thank you. Dennis, okay, I think he's there's a tech glitch from his side. I want to thank you for joining us today, for your inspiring replies and a great conversation. And with that, I just want to say the greatest takeaway that I have is your your footprints in the creative and cultural industries in Rwanda, and how your intention of scaling that and matchmaking creatives with the players, the government, and also the investors. So I want to thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you back. And a quick reminder that this webinar series is designed to be a cornerstone of the Africa Creative Tech Initiative. It's providing young African entrepreneurs and creatives the tools, the inspiration, just from hearing creatives like you, founders like you, and providing them with the connections needed to succeed in a rapidly evolving global landscape. I want to thank everyone that has joined us today. Please join us next time as we embark on this journey to empower Africa's next generation of leaders in the creative and tech industries. Raul, if you have just one last word that you would like to share before I do the final closing, what would that be?
So it's inviting everyone to create more this year and collaborate, and also visit Rwanda. Yeah.
Okay, that's on my bucket list, and you know that we're coming.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that invite. And these are my closing thoughts for today. This webinar series is more than just a conversation. It's a cornerstone of the Africa Creative Tech Tech Initiative. Our goal is to equip young African entrepreneurs and creatives with those tools, with the inspiration. We believe that Africa's creative and tech industries, they hold immense potential to reshape the future, not only for Africa, but globally, by fostering innovation and what Raul mentioned, collaboration and entrepreneurship. We're positioning Africa to be a leader, both in the cultural and in the technological revolutions. We see what is happening in Rwanda, we see what is happening in Kenya, we see what is happening in Nigeria and across board on the continent. So let's be open to collaboration. He mentioned it still, collaboration. Let's innovate with purpose. Let's celebrate Africa's cultural narratives and invest in the next generation. Join us next time as we continue this journey to empower Africa's next generation of leaders in creative and technology industries. Together, we can unlock the full potential of the African innovation and creativity. I want to thank you all for being guests today. I want to thank you, Raul, for being a wonderful guest today, and for our audience that have been, with us so far. So thank you, and once again, have a wonderful weekend, and see you next time. Take care now. I think Dennis is back. Take care. Dennis, just one last thing. Wait.
Yes,
I've wrapped up. So
is back and Dennis is back as well.
Okay, so give us one last word because we've wrapped up.
Yes, thank you, Raul, for this conversation, for your inspiring replies, and wish you happiness with and prosperity for both you and Rwanda, which in terms of creative tech market means nearly the same, as soon as you're one of the biggest drivers in the Rwanda's creative tech industries. And we're looking forward how we could collaborate on and what we could contribute. I mean, Story Chest and Fuel Arts contribute to your conference.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Watch us. We're coming to Kigali. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Right. Take care.
Dennis, with your internet issue, you are welcome to move to Rwanda.
Yes, probably. Yeah. I'll tell the mayor about it. Thank you, Raul. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. All right. Take care now. Bye-bye.
That's a great finish of this. Bye.